Hello, I am Jaime Elizondo from Real World Ranching, where my focus is on helping ranchers and farmers to improve their land the fastest while maximizing their profitability. Recently, I have been receiving many questions regarding smaller scale operations and total grazing, or small farms. In fact, some of my total grazing students run smaller farms, so I wanted to create this episode to clarify a few doubts that you may have if you have a small operation and are very interested in total grazing. You see, it is not only about the benefits that you will have in productivity, but the importance of improving your land. We need to realize that soil and individual plants, humus creation, and future productivity reacts to management exactly the same in large as in small farms. The principles are exactly the same, and as a very large cattle producer told me, large because he has thousands of head, anything can be scaled up or down with success. All we need to remember is to apply the fundamental principles to our unique environment, which includes scale. In my youth, I started doing beyond organic production on a very small scale with rabbits and a vegetable garden, learning to make good compost since I was 15 years old. I had a mentor, Mr. Parks, our neighbor, and learned a lot from him. The droppings of my rabbits I recollected to make compost with the grass leaves in a lasagna way after mowing the yard, and I had to learn to do all the vegetable growing without chemicals as I wasn't allowed to use them. That started my lifelong love with biology, live organisms, and ecosystems. After graduating from college as an agronomist engineer, I knew I could replicate this, but with the help of larger animals, cows and sheep, that impact the soil so much better, and started doing this in 1990. My message to you today is that you do not have to have a large-scale farm or ranch to do what you love and know is good for the environment, your health, and your soil. If you know someone that would like to hear this podcast, please share the link with them so more people can hear this inspiring message, which may help them do the good they know they can achieve. This message is so important. We need to have a fulfilling life and help others do the same. If you share my love and passion for living organisms and living functional systems, this is the podcast for you. We must remember how humus is formed and how soil microorganisms benefit from having something green and growing for the largest part of the year to feed them via the root exudates. We also need to remember the huge impact of trees in our environment. So even if you only have half an acre or thousands of acres, the fundamental principles are the same. One, humus is our soil's real fertility and is what makes new land that has been deforested produce more, or a prairie that was broken. But with conventional agriculture and livestock, conventional grazing, we end up mining it without realizing the humus. And humus lasts around 100 years, so we have been enjoying what was built up by soil microorganisms a long time ago. Microorganisms, which in turn are converted into humus. And this is how up to 80% of new humus is formed. This also means that humus is the most important component of your soil. Do not limit yourself by thinking your property is too small. Of course, you need to decide early on if your property will grow with time, if you want to lease more land, or if you prefer to stay at that scale. There is nothing wrong with improving your land with livestock, even if you can only have rabbits or sheep or pigs or poultry. Two, understand how humus is formed and learn how to create more of it. Humus is the stable degraded fraction of organic matter that cannot be further degraded by the action of microorganisms. It is our soil, real fertility, gives our soil the dark brown color and good earthy smell like forest floor. It also provides nutrients, moisture, and a place for microorganisms to thrive. It also buffers salts, chemicals, and pH extremes. This means it is fundamental. You know how humus is formed, and you create more of it for even higher quality and yield in your land, regardless of scale. We must know that not all organic matter is humus. For example, a good compost must have above 3% of it being humus to be considered good. When your humus increases, your land reacts to it as if it started to rain more and you fertilized it. This is very fast to observe, and the first step is to stop the use of chemicals, including synthetic fertilizers in the soil, as they kill or inhibit the very necessary and important mycorrhiza, which job is to help your plants explore up to 100 times more area and to help with the uptake of previously unavailable phosphorus. Up to 80% of humus is created via root exudates, which contain energy to feed the microorganisms, which besides making the soil nutrients available to your plants, are themselves digested by other microorganisms and eventually converted to humus, with the final digestion being carried out by fungi. So it's liquid sunshine, root exudates created by photosynthesis that feed the microorganisms that eventually their bodies are converted to fungi. So it is not by litter and refuse and organic matter as we have been told. So we see that litter and organic refuse is not very effective at creating the humus fraction that is stable and lasts over 100 years. By doing a total grazing program, does increase your humus very fast, as the leaves produce energy through photosynthesis, while the stems consume energy through respiring. The difference between these two, photosynthesis and respiring, is the energy left for production and for feeding the microorganisms around the plant roots for higher productivity and humus formation. It is a virtuous cycle, and it is how nature functions. If we think on it, we know that natural forests and grasslands do not require chemicals or fertilizers, and yet are highly fertile and productive. I have experienced this through my life, but only around 6 years ago, the science came up with the research that proves this. You can listen it on my YouTube channel of Real World Ranching by Jaime Elizondo under the video called New Evidence for the Primacy of Living Roots Inputs Informing Soil Organic Carbon. Trees. Trees are essential for maximum resiliency of our land, regardless of scale, as they help to draw wildlife like birds and others to our land. They can also provide shade and windbreak for men and beasts, and if planted properly, they can provide fruit, nuts, and a haven for soil microorganisms. Ideally, around 30% of the area would be optimal to having good forage or fruit-producing trees, or wood-producing trees. There are many species to fit any environment, so believing trees are not for you is not an option. And I say this because I have visited farms and ranches where they claim that trees cannot grow there, even though there are trees growing in their neighbor's land and across the road. 4, another option for all is to create a food forest on a small area, maybe half an acre, and integrate poultry and pigs in it. This has the advantage of requiring very little effort and provides a continuous supply of food if designed correctly for your unique environment. I suggest creating a small food forest for large-scale properties and for small-scale properties, as it is very satisfying. 5, using animals to harvest the energy produced by photosynthesis through good total grazing management makes life so much easier than doing the work ourselves. And I know because I use a hoe to clean my garden. This works at small scale and at very large scale, as our main goal is to create strong and fat roots and more desirable plants per square yard to allow even more humus to be created while maximizing your production and stocking rate. My total grazing students know this, and they know that by implementing the Total Grazing online course program, they will have a leafier pasture with much higher humus production and a stockpile reserve in area to feed their livestock through the winter or dry season. This is important not only to save on hay feeding, but also to improve your soil humus faster. They also know they can plant fodder trees to feed their livestock in the difficult times of the year. When your plants grow in soil with high humus content, they will have higher quality and your livestock will reflect that, while at the same time, you will be healthier by consuming such produce. The much higher fatty acids like omega-3 profile in the meat and milk from grass-fed livestock will help your health, while the CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, in them will help prevent cancer. It is not scale that what prevents us to achieve these great results in our life. We need to go out and start with what we can and achieve real wealth in our lives. Remember, without good health, money and time are worthless. We need good health first, and that comes from what you eat. I believe in using low-cost biological methods and to never use poisons on the land and animals. I don't want to hurt people. We must strive to be the best stewards of the land that we can be. Conclusion and summary to obtain the benefits of total grazing on smaller farms. 1. Humus is the most important component of your soil as it is your soil real fertility. 2. Learn how to create more humus by applying the total grazing program. Watch my video on my YouTube channel of Real World Ranching by Jaime Elizondo under New Evidence for the Primacy of Living Roots Inputs in Forming Soil Organic Carbon. When you get to my channel, click on videos and go down to the last video. There are around 60 or 80 there. The last one is this one, New Evidence for the Primacy of Living Roots Inputs in Forming Soil Organic Carbon. And there is a link to the scientific article. 3. Plant trees strategically to draw more biodiversity to your land, which helps with resiliency and gives you shade and windbreaks and fodder. 4. Follow your passion and create a haven for you and your family by creating a small and manageable food forest. 5. Use animals to harvest the energy produced by photosynthesis through total grazing management, as this makes life so much easier than doing the work ourselves. This works at a small scale and at a very large scale. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Until then, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, or join us for the weekly email at www.rwranching.com/join. See you later.